The union budget has announced a bold move to make a transition to electric vehicles and offered a tax incentive for the early adopters. Its stated vision to leapfrog into an era of electric mobility and domestic vehicle manufacturing, led by public transport and commercial vehicles, is forward-looking. It is also inevitable because poor air quality and noise pollution have sharply affected the quality of life and pose a serious public health challenge. As the NITI AYOG has stated, the goal of shifting to electric vehicles cannot make progress without deadlines and a market-driven approach sought by some sections of the automotive industry will leave India's capabilities and infrastructure for e-mobility trailing others, notably China. With 2030 as the outer limit, the imperative is to fix a realistic time frame by which scooters, motorcycles, three-wheel carriages and, later, all new vehicles will be battery-powered. An additional income tax deduction of 1.5 lakh is now offered on interest paid on loans to purchase electric vehicles, and the GST Council has been moved to cut the tax on e-vehicles to 5% from 12%. Both demands were made by the industry earlier. There is a significant outlay under the second iteration of the faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles FAME plan of 10,000 crore to give a fillip to commercial vehicles and to set up charging stations. Hyundai launches Kona Electric in India, priced at 25.30 lakh. The budgetary measures will have an immediate impact on the pricing of electric vehicles and bring in more models, but it will take a sustained effort by the centre, in partnership with state governments, to enable a fast rollout of charging infrastructure. The Ministry of Power issued guidelines and standards for this in December last year, setting technical parameters for public charging stations that can enable normal and fast charging. With price competition, a speedy spread of electric two-wheelers can be expected, given that over 80% of conventional vehicles sold in India come under that category. Affordable charging will make these vehicles and commercial three-wheelers attractive because operating costs are a fraction of petrol and diesel equivalents. Yet, longer range travel will require more than a charge-at-home facility. And this would have to be in the form of fast charging at parking lots, retrofitted fuel outlets, new public charging stations, hotels, offices and so on, swapping the battery at convenient locations with one that is pre-charged. Especially for commercial vehicles that run longer and need a quick turnaround, is worth considering. A longer-term policy priority has to be the setting up of lithium battery production and solar charging infrastructure of a scale that matches the ambition. The centre has accepted some of the demands of the auto industry to popularize EVs. Many investors who were hoping for business-friendly reforms were not too impressed by the maiden budget of the second Narendra Modi government, after a moderate negative reaction when the budget was presented in Parliament on Friday. Both the Sensex and the Nifty witnessed their biggest fall in over 2 years on Monday. The Sensex incurred a huge loss of 792.82 points while the Nifty shed about 250 points. Sectors such as banking, automobiles and power were the worst hit, each witnessing a loss of over 3%. Investors were spooked by a variety of proposals made by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman that are expected to increase the tax burden on themes here. These include the proposal to increase long-term capital gains tax on foreign portfolio investors and to tax the buyback of shares by companies at 20%. The negative signal sent by the increased surcharge on people earning over 2 crore a year also weighed on markets. This tax on the super-rich is unlikely to make much of a difference to the government's fiscal position. However, it does damage the image of the present government as a pro-business one and can affect fund flow into the country if the wealthy prefer to move to other countries. The proposal to raise minimum public shareholding in listed companies from 25% to 35% is also seen as an unnecessary intervention in markets. Global factors like strong jobs data coming from the United States, which lowers the chances of an interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve, and the potential systemic risk posed by the troubles faced by Deutsche Bank may have also weighed on the markets. However, the losses experienced by Western markets on Monday were nowhere as heavy as the losses faced by the Indian markets. All these aside, the larger issue bothering the Indian investor may be the budget's supposed tilt towards populism as the government expands the size of its welfare projects instead of taking steps to revive private investment in the slowing economy. Apart from a few words from the finance minister on simplifying labor laws and relieving startup investors from the regressive angel tax, the budget was largely bereft of any major structural reforms that could instill confidence among investors. The trajectory of markets in the coming months will depend on the kind of reforms the government manages to push through, and on the actions of central banks across the globe. While the Reserve Bank of India looks to be easing its policy, any global liquidity tightening can affect foreign fund inflows, despite lackluster company earnings and other fundamental issues. Markets in the past have been pushed up aggressively by the ample liquidity provided by central banks, but without enough reforms to strengthen the fundamentals that can back lofty valuations. It may be only a matter of time before markets begin to lose steam this year. After nearly 18 years since Saravana Bhavan hotel staffer Prince Santakumar was kidnapped and murdered, the owner of the chain of hotels P. Rajagopal, the main offender in the case, surrendered in a city court on Tuesday. He was brought in an ambulance as he was not keeping well. P. Rajagopal is 73 now. He was cited as accused number 1 in the kidnap and murder of Santakumar, who was his employee in 2001, when the trial court gave a lower punishment to convicts in 2004. The state preferred an appeal before the Madras High Court. In 2009, the Madras High Court sentenced him and 5 others to life imprisonment. 3 others were sentenced to 3 years imprisonment and 2 more to 2 years imprisonment. In March, the Supreme Court confirmed the order of the Madras High Court and gave time till July 7 to the convicts for surrendering to serve prison terms. However, Rajagopal's last-ditch effort to skip incarceration was rejected by the Supreme Court on Tuesday. Following the rejection of his plea, Rajagopal was brought in an ambulance by his staff to the City Civil Court complex on the Madras High Court campus. He was wearing an oxygen mask. Another co-accused Janardhanan was also brought in another ambulance. Their advocates went to the IV Additional Sessions Court located on the 3rd floor and sought the Judge G. Thiniyendran to accept the surrender of Rajagopal and other. They said since they were bedridden and on stretchers, they could not bring them to 3rd floor. But the prosecution and the Velachery Inspector of Police opposed this plea. They wanted the court to reject surrender petitions and to issue warrants straight away. The Inspector of Police told the court that when an inspector has visited Rajagopal recently, he was sitting in a chair. After a brief argument, the judge ordered them brought to the court. Rajagopal was alighted from the ambulance van. 7-person staff carried him on the stretcher through narrow staircases to the 3rd floor of building where the court located. When the court staff asked his name and about identification marks, he responded. Justice Thiniyendran ordered the police to take the custody of duo and to be lodged in central prison. However, Rajagopal was admitted to the intermediate care unit of Government Stanley Medical College Hospital on Tuesday evening. Hospital authorities said doctors were examining him as he had complaints including cardiac ailments, hypertension and diabetes. According to prosecution, acting either upon the advice of an astrologer or having become besotted with Jivajyoti, wife of Prince Santakumar. Rajagopal evinced a keen desire to take her as his third wife. In order to fulfill his desire, Rajagopal used to financially help her family members and her husband. He used to talk to her over the phone frequently, and also gave her costly gifts such as jewelry and silk saris, and even went to the extent of paying her medical bills. In a further bid to gain her love and affection, he frequently interfered in her personal matters. Once when she was ill, under the pretext of better treatment as advised by another doctor, Rajagopal forcefully shifted her to another hospital, where he advised her not to have sexual relations with her husband and made her undergo a series of tests. The deceased Santakumar was instructed to get himself tested for HIV and other such diseases, which he refused outright. On October 18, 2001, Santakumar and Jivajyoti were taken to Chengalpattu in a car on pretext of visiting Sai Baba temple. At 8:30 p.m. on the same night, a Mercedes-Benz belonging to Rajagopal arrived with the parents of Jivajyoti along with Rajagopal. Her mother informed her that Rajagopal wanted to leave her husband and meet him in the car. As she resisted, others forcibly took her to the car, and she was taken to Tiruchirappalli to remove the alleged influence of witchcraft, black magic, which was allegedly the cause of her being in love with Santakumar. Rajagopal made several failed attempts with the help of the other accused to sever the relationship between Jivajyoti and her husband. Santakumar was kidnapped by other accused on instructions from Rajagopal. On October 26, 2001, the couple were separated in Tirunelveli by Rajagopal's men. Rajagopal got out of his car and grabbed Santakumar by the collar. Dragging him out, he pushed Santakumar down and handed him over to other accused and ordered them to finish him off. They killed Santakumar and threw the dead body in the forest area of Tiger Chola near Kodaikanal. The body was found on October 30 of that year and later identified by Jivajyoti.